Hello, I'm Will Yeoman, and welcome to another episode of the Pod Well Travelled, the last before Christmas. It was the pod before Christmas.
You've been saving that one, Will.
No, I haven't. It just occurred to me.
We've both been away. He's had a bit of time on his hands.
Yeah. I've been sitting there with my little, whiteboard out, brainstorming. And now, how can I possibly say something that's even mildly amusing?
I think that really worked.
Yeah. Anyway, Stephen Scourfield and Mogens Johansen, welcome back now. Stephen, you've been to Bali,
Yes.
flying. Mogens, you've been to the Pacific Islands cruising.
Yes.
What's to talk about here? Who wants to kick us off?
I don't know. How about respect for our elders? So you kick off, Stephen.
Yeah. Well,
When he says elders, he says marginally.
I
What?
was going to say, I was more stopped by the word respect, actually. Well, we'll start with the good news. We have talked a lot recently about, delays and queues and postponement and kind of bumpy travel. Of course, Perth Airport's always been a bit of a kind of sticking point, I suppose. I was on the plane on the way home at 8 minutes past 3 on Monday night. A quarantine officer came on board because, one of the features of Bali, of course, at the moment is that they have foot and mouth disease.
Right, okay.
Which it was explained, on the plane by the quarantine officer that this is a serious thing for, to not bring into Western Australia. And when you get off, you actually walk from the Bali flights, you actually walk across these mats, which clean the soles of your shoes. And of course, you have to declare whether you've been in farming areas and so on. But anyway, 8 minutes past 3, that was happening. And at 3 minutes past 8, that was happening. And at 21 minutes past 8, I was in a taxi on the way home. 18 minutes international is my record.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You set a new record just in time for 2022 to end.
Straight out. It was fantastic. And from Bali, which is a sensitive area for those reasons. So,
of course.
So I think, we're always...
Of course, you do have to declare that you are only travelling with hand luggage.
I was travelling with hand luggage. I was travelling with my backpack, but even so, I'm in the quarantine I'm in the... border control and all that stuff. All the machines were working beautifully for passports. Everyone there's plenty of staff there for
very nice.
To get you through. So so credit to them. Credit to the airport for doing that nicely, because the Qatar flight was just in, and there was a fair few people around. It worked beautifully.
And you asked me yesterday how my flying experience was, and I must say, compared to a trip I did to Europe a few months ago, it was an absolute breeze this time. Everything just worked like clockwork. It was just like pre-pandemic sort of,
Sorry, just take us back a bit. So you had to fly from where to get your cruise?
So from here I flew
Perth,
to Sydney first, and then we had a little bit of a roundabout trip to New Zealand and then to Tahiti.
And Tahiti's where the ship was leaving?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And then flying back home, flew out of Fiji, and then back to Sydney, and we had no trouble at all.
No big queues.
No.
Amazing.
Can I just mention, because I sort of forgot, but the queue to get onto the plane in Perth was interesting, and for anyone going to Bali or Indonesia generally, but Bali obviously in particular, you need to download an app. Which is an entry sort of app, and you need to fill in an online form, and there's no paper backup for that now. So getting up to the counter, and a lot of the airlines will not board you unless they've seen evidence of that. So then you've got a group of people standing at the counter trying to fill in an online form on their phones. And
So this goes back to what we were saying last week about how some apps you absolutely have to have. Otherwise you can't do it.
You can't go to Bali without a phone.
Isn't that amazing?
You cannot go to Bali without a phone, because there's no paper form now. It's all on. It's
incredible
all on your phone.
I mean, that would cause problems for some people. I mean, I still know people, believe it or not, who haven't got a mobile phone.
Well, look, I was more worried about the people who have got it but just don't know how to use it. Don't start me on that, because I was in the queue going, for goodness sake, just get the app.
Yeah. So that did cause some inconvenience then.
Leaving.
Yeah, because it held up.
Certainly caused a hold up.
Right.
know. And even in the queue, you think, well, you're standing there in the queue. I mean, do it now, not when you get to the counter.
Just download it, just get it sorted. Yeah.
But very important to do that. Yep.
Good advice.
Sorry, Mogens, we were going to the Pacific.
Yeah, you were going to tell us about your flights were seamless.
Really great getting fuel trip.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the ship.
Oh, the ship is it's called the Norwegian Spirit, and it's one of the Norwegian Cruise Line's oldest ships, but it's been refurbished recently, 2020, and it's actually sort of like the voyage across the South Pacific. There was to get it to Sydney, where it sort of has just on the 22nd, in a couple of days it'll arrive there, and then it will commence its Australian and New Zealand sort of summer cruising series. There's about 8 cruises between Sydney and New Zealand over the next few months that people can join. But it was really just an opportunity to see what the ship looks like now after its refurbishment, and it's everything has basically been redone. It's inside, the restaurants, the public areas and the staterooms and all that sort of stuff. It's all been redone, so everything looks fresh and new, and it's got that sort of perhaps I didn't actually see it prior to that, but it's got quite a sort of contemporary design now, and pleasant sort of neutral colours and all that sort of stuff. So it's a good looking ship, and thankfully on my cruise it was only about half full, just bit or half full, which makes for a very pleasant cruise, in particular when you got a few sea days and so on.
Yeah. So do you think, couples, families, multi-generation, grandparents, families, all that, good for all of that?
Yes. Generally speaking, there's plenty of activities on board, but I will say, and I did hear a couple of people who complained a little bit about, the lack of activities for young children in particular. That there used to be a kids club on board. That's been removed and discontinued. So, I guess it doesn't matter what ship you choose or what cruise you choose. You should check to see whether it will suit, you if you are travelling with a young family, for example. So this ship is perhaps more geared for, couples and sort of family groups that are travelling, adult family groups that are travelling together.
Groups of friends, things like that.
Oh, interesting. What cruise you choose, I like that.
Yeah.
Very good jingle.
It's the one thing we've always said, isn't it?
Oh, look, totally.
You've got to be on the right ship.
We've talked about this a lot on the pod, which is amazing. Look, we'll get back to your destinations in a moment, but let's go back to Stephen and talk about Bali, because yours was a very, just one destination, essentially.
It was. But, in terms of destinations, just to tidy up a little bit, I've been travel editor here for 21 years.
Yes.
Now, and the Pacific has always been a bit off our radar because, like Bali, which we're going to talk about, is obviously the big option. And there's cruising in Asia. You can go up to Singapore, get on there and so on. So the Pacific's always been a bit sort of slightly difficult to get to. It works well from the East Coast, but not really from Perth in Western Australia so well. But, that Mogens has been on this trip partly because we feel that's changed.
Of course.
At this particular time when people are looking for something to do and something a bit different to do, but not far from home, it actually is a really good option to go there, to Tahiti, Bora, Bora, all those sort of places that we probably wouldn't, normally kind of go to, It's given us almost a little new destination for this moment.
No, I think you're right. Yeah.
We don't want to be, some people don't want to be too far from home. So, but of course, Bali is the big number. It's quite interesting though, Bali, because, Garuda is still not flying from Perth. So you've got Jetstar, AirAsia and Batik, all of which are, full. And there's been a lot of discussion before we go any further about airline prices. This was all booked and planned with about 4 days' notice pre-Christmas, and it was $1,200 return from Perth, which is not outrageous. So, that was an AirAsia flight, which was fine. I went up because it's the Sofitel chain, which is a French chain of luxury hotel, resort hotels, mainly resorts. Very much got the French DNA and, senior management French, part of the big Accor group, which is the biggest global hotelier, I suppose. It was their 9th anniversary, and the Sofitel Bali Nusa Dua was their first property in Asia. So it's kind of special property to them. And of course, 9 is a very auspicious number. I think Indonesian elections are often held on July the 9th,
right, okay.
on 9s, you know. So 9's a good number. So it was a big deal for them to have this 9th anniversary. So I went up for their Sunday brunch, which is also a big deal because they do this weekly brunch between 11 and 3. It's actually very good value, and it's booked out. I mean, you know, if you were going next winter, you'd want to book it now, sort of thing. Just fabulous food, the sort of Italia French style where you've got different cooking stations, different styles, and you can help yourself. But of course, there was a lot of live entertainment, a lot of local people. The well-heeled locals were there to support the hotel and so on and so forth. So it was quite a wild sort of wild lunch. There was a tiny, physically tiny little lady who was sitting there quietly, who, when it got to sort of karaoke time, came up and sang opera like you don't often hear it out of this tiny frame. It took us all by surprise.
Can Belto style, eh?
It was fantastic. Yeah, it was fantastic. So it was a great lunch, great food, and there's a great atmosphere in the hotel. You know, it still feels like quite a new hotel, and it's a very clever place because, you know, so many of the resorts in Bali are, you know, the pool area is just what it's all about. But they actually have these kind of canals coming off the pool area. So I had a pool access room, which means that, you know, these canals come right around the rooms, and you've got steps from your patio down into these 1.2 metre deep.
So you can like wade or swim.
You can wade or swim through the greenery. You know, you can swim around these sort of channels.
Wow.
And into the main pool area. And there's a swim up bar. So one lady said to me, we were discussing this, and she said, and I quote, she said, as a middle-aged woman, she said, this is what I love because I can get into the water and go to the bar, and whatever's happening beneath the surface is private and nobody's business. You know? So she felt that, you know, she didn't have to kind of display herself. I suppose,
much more discreet.
So she could come and go from her room in that way, which and spend a holiday in her bathers, which was interesting.
So did you get a chance to venture outside of that area?
You know, Nusa Dua is good for visitors, I think, because, you know, there's a lot of kind of, well, not private beaches, but beaches in front of the resorts.
Right. Okay.
Even the beach vendors are licensed by the hotels, so they're known. You know, so if you're buying a sarong or something, you know, all these people in the beach masseurs are all sort of known and licensed by, in this case, Sofitel. So Nusa Dua is a quieter sort of place, and of course it's quite easy. It's easy to get to now because of they've built this extraordinary road across the harbour. I think it's about 12 kilometres, literally across the water in the middle. It took 18 months to build, so you whiz out to the east coast very quickly now from the airport, which is pretty good. I did also spend a night in Seminyak. There's a new hotel, the Grand Mercure Bali Seminyak, which has just opened. So I think I was the third guest and the first one to have breakfast because I was up before.
Wow!
So that's a brand new hotel there.
And you were impressed by that?
Yeah,
property?
I was, and it's sort of one street back from the beach, which is not a bad thing.
Okay.
Beautiful hotel again with, you know, big pool complex. Really good restaurant with, you know, nice food and great staff. The rooms were big, very big. So a big, comfortable space and nice to get off, kind of away from just one street back suits me quite well. But Bali generally you think it's pretty quiet in the day, but then, God, the evening was just full on. You know, it was very, very busy. So
wow.
Some of my writing colleagues went up to Kuta the night before, which is about 3 kilometres. It took 2 hours in a taxi.
Oh my God! Because it was just so
the
busy.
traffic's back.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think Grand Mercure is in Seminyak is a good thing to forward book. Just a little insider tip here is that the way it works in Indonesia and Bali being part of Indonesia is hotels can only apply for their alcohol license once they're open. So there's always a lag. So it could be 2 months before that hotel can serve alcohol. But it does mean that they're very keen to get visitors. So first, if that doesn't matter to you because you're going to go outside anyway, then you may not want to drink in the hotel. Around the pool, maybe that is an issue, but certainly there's going to be a lot of good forward deals for the Grand Mercure Bali Seminyak, because they're going to be keen to fill that place up.
Yeah, of course.
So perhaps have a look, give it a couple of months and have a look for deals.
Very nice, very nice.
They're just putting together packages now as well. So
that's a good tip.
You'll see those around. Yeah.
So to go from the relatively known, to the relatively unknown, Mogens, tell us a bit more about your itinerary.
Yeah, I was really keen to go when this came up, because I'd never visited any of the islands out in the South Pacific and French Polynesia, so it was a pretty sort of tantalizing itinerary. We began, so I just must say that I didn't stay for the whole cruise. We sort of dipped in at Tahiti, Papeete. That's where we joined the cruise, and then from there it went on to Moorea, which is another French Polynesian island, but that's only nearly a stone's throw away from Tahiti. You can, if you're staying in Tahiti, you can take a ferry across. It takes half an hour, a bit like a Roto ferry. So that's a good option, perhaps, if you're not on a cruise. And then from there we went to Bora, which was a tough assignment, I must say.
You're going to have to tell us about that. Yeah. It's amazing.
And from there on to, we were meant to go to, what's it called? Pago in American Samoa, but it was changed at the last minute to Apia in Samoa, which was a nice destination as well. And then from there we had a few sea days in between some of the islands there, and then went to finish our part of the cruise in Lautoka in Fiji. So that was my sort of Pacific adventure.
Wow. Bora
so let's go back to Bora.
Yeah. I think my two favourite islands were Moorea and Bora. I mean, Bora is that sort of classic island getaway, just beautiful to look at. It's full of these. I mean, if I paint a picture, there's this sort of like twin sort of peaks on the main island of Bora, and then there's a fringing reef that runs all around, and it just inside the fringing reef there's these small sand islands they call them motus over there, and that's where many of these resorts are. So they're sort of private islands, but they're located there, so you get these magnificent views of the island, the main island, and the green tropical peaks behind. It's just so picturesque. And of course the lagoon is mainly shallow water, so there's great snorkeling. There's stingrays and reef sharks darting around all over the place.
I saw a picture of you paddling.
Yes, that was good.
Yeah, you sent me that one.
One of the things that with as I said, a lot of the resorts are on these motus just off the main island, so you can't, unless you take a cruise or something like that, you in the lagoon, you can't actually get to them. So we thought, the good idea just to hire a kayak, because it's not far. You can sort of paddle across. So and that was a pretty good morning. A morning well spent, I would say.
Good man.
Yeah. Yeah, so managed to paddle across to one of the resorts and sort of get that sort of nice pictures of these over water bungalows and that sort of stuff. But I mean, I must say, one thing that struck me when we were visiting these islands were there's a lot of resorts that are just boarded up following COVID. They just haven't recovered yet from that, and although we were talking earlier, they were largely COVID free out there on the islands. Obviously they closed down, and as a result, the resorts closed down, and some of them have just sort of allegedly just walked away from it and are not going to necessarily return, certainly in the short term.
It's amazing, isn't it? That you can have not had coronavirus but still be a victim of the pandemic.
Like economically, definitely. Yeah.
Economically. And also, after we discussed this, I was thinking, that to keep a resort in the tropics ticking over. I mean, it was the same with cruise ships. They actually had to keep them running and keep the air conditioners running, or else they just degrade so quickly.
Yeah.
You can imagine a resort in the tropics,
unless
you've actually got staff there airing it and running air conditioners and keeping the place, will just vanish into the jungle.
Exactly.
Terrible. With the humidity and so on. So you can see why those buildings would quite quickly become.
Almost derelict. I mean, there was a few places we saw on Moria, and from a distance they look lovely. The thatched roofs and over the water sort of private balconies and all that sort of stuff. But when you get closer, you can see they're all boarded up, and the wood needs treating and all those kind of things, like in like you say, in the humidity and harsh sort of salt environment they're in.
Yeah,
they need to be looked after all the time.
Quite interesting. I mean, Australia generally, West Australia in particular, has an implication in this because we've been bringing in groups of Pacific Island workers because of our labour shortage.
Yeah.
So they can earn, probably much better money here to send home than they can even if those resorts were to reopen. So they'll have an extra problem in trying to find staff for those any resorts that are opening anyway.
Yeah,
because the industries here are so desperate for it. I mean, even in the hospitality sector, yes, but even in the hospitality side of the resources industry is bringing in Pacific workers.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But it was kind of, so it's a little sad to see, I think, because they are such beautiful locations, and but on the islands as a whole, life goes on. I mean, they seem to find things to do, and they have got other small industries and that sort of stuff, subsistence farming and that sort of stuff, and they sort of seem to just revert to that and get into islander mode and
fishing coconuts,
play the ukulele and all that sort of stuff. So
that's not.
They seem to, certainly from my brief impressions, when you arrive on a cruise ship, you don't sort of get too much time to sort of mooch around and really delve into the places, but they seem to be doing okay without obviously being back to where they were pre-pandemic.
Very interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, before we finish, Stephen, you've got your customary year in review coming out this Saturday.
Yes, we say that very carefully. Yes, I have.
No, indeed.
I have.
Can you without too many spoilers? Can you tell us?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's one of those things that travel editors do, I suppose.
Yeah.
But what a year, because at the beginning of the year, I really thought that not much was going to happen. If you'd asked me this question this time last year, you sort of think, well, next year will be. We were still sort of feeling our way around Australia and things were opening and shutting and, we were doing a lot of WA, and you think, well, probably it's just going to be pretty much that. But it certainly wasn't, when you consider that we've been in Europe and Antarctica.
Absolutely.
From France to goodness knows where else. We've been out and about in the Middle East, and it's been tentatively back to normal, South America. So for, most of the travelling, audience, I'm sure has all been out and about as well. The initial part of that was VFR, visiting friends and relatives, of course.
And of course.
But then people do very big trips. And I think a dynamic there was that, part of the staff shortage, the labour shortage. So many people retired, and a lot of people retired early. Just given late 50s, 60s, said, well, that'll do. And so they're out. They're very keen to travel while they can, and while they're feeling their time is here. So there's all sorts of dynamics in people travelling. We have lots of readers, audience who've been away doing very, very big trips. I took 22 people to Antarctica, although we got caught by COVID, of course. So the year has been far more dynamic, and I guess I expected to take 2 steps forward and 1 back with a lot of the travel, that it was going to be more difficult. I don't think it's been as difficult as I thought. I do think that fewer people in the industry, and of those people, a lot of those people are new people, and they're using complex systems. So a lot of the delays that I've had this year have been through slow computer systems, check-ins and things like that. So it's been an interesting year, but the most extraordinary year and a faster comeback. I mean, who would have thought, like Mogens there, all these ships would be sailing, all the international ships are sailing, they're coming and going. Certainly in Fremantle, we've just had Silver Muse calling through, and Azamara and so on. I mean, even 12 months ago, if a cruise ship came near here, they'd probably send out a gunship, So things have moved pretty quickly, I reckon.
Yeah, wow.
And it is interesting, being on a cruise ship. I've been on a couple since, the last few months, and people are generally quite relaxed about the whole COVID thing. It's not sort of like you see everyone wearing masks, for example. People do tend to, I think people take precautions, of course, but it's not like they're wearing masks all the time, or even are required to on board, much like on aircraft. Right. It's a voluntary thing now.
Except for flying into Indonesia, actually. It's compulsory to fly to wear a mask on the way to Indonesia. But not on the way back. So that's we're very careful how we say year in review, because one of our colleagues who was full-time in travel, he was very worried. He thought I was going to do a urine review one year, and he became quite nervous. So
like a drug test or something.
Something like that. Yeah, that's right. The urine review, and then we're ready for 2023.
Indeed.
We've already got those editions underway. So.
We have, and we'll probably talk about that in a future pod as well. We'll talk about what's coming up for us in 2023, because there is a lot.
Fantastic year. Yes, fantastic year. We've got so much planned. I was trying to find a Thursday for an event next year. Yeah. And it has to be a Tuesday, because we've literally got no days. Every week next year has got something happening.
Yeah. Which is fantastic. Before we go, I should have asked you, Mogens, how was your year? I mean, you're not going to write about it, but any highlights apart from the cruises?
I think apart from the cruises, I think my highlight was going back to see my family in Denmark for the first time in what seemed like forever.
You're going to get a Christmas present. Well done.
So that was without a doubt my highlight, as you mentioned earlier. Visiting family and friends. I think that was on a lot of people's mind. Exactly. Not necessarily a destination as a holiday destination. It's more that long period of time where you hadn't been able to see your family and that sort of stuff. So that was perhaps my highlight of 2022.
Oh, very nice.
Very nice. Well,
what was yours, Will?
I didn't have one.
That was a cruel question.
Not really. No. Not a cruel question.
No highlights. It's all just I just travel along one steady level, all the way through.
Good man. Up on the plane.
Indeed. So, well, look, guys, thank you so much for coming onto the pod before Christmas.
Can I just mention? Sorry, Will.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, one of the great highlights of next year is the launch of Art Series.
Oh, well, that's
with
true.
Will Yeoman.
Thank you for reminding me. Well, that's forthcoming, though.
It is, but I mean, there's been a lot of work. So, we're starting a series of tours called Art Series.
Yes.
Regular audience will know that we do. We've done other tours, but this is particularly Will's thing, and the launch one is in the Northern Territory. Very much the Red Centre.
Yeah, because we thought it was right to start
Indigenous art,
because it's such a massive thing.
Yeah, and Will's put together the itinerary very specifically himself with the right flavour. Launching art series is our big thing for next year.
Yeah, something different, a new product. Not everyone can say they've got a new product they're launching.
No,
so
I think it's very exciting. All the details for that will be on westtravelclub.com.au/tours.
/tours. Yeah, it's there. I have a look at it. It's definitely there. So
it's very exciting.
Have a look.
And I say all the work that's gone into that, good on you, Will.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah,
I want to come.
You should. No, you can't. All this stuff. You've been to all these places. What do you want to come?
No. I mean, I don't have your insight.
But you've got a huge. You have got a huge knowledge of Indigenous art that you built up over the years.
You've got a big.
I know that. No. So we've gone from urine tests to something else now. In the space of half an hour. No.
I mean, you bring arts and culture. I've got a different
huge
history.
Probably different context. Yeah, that's fair.
I think for anyone who signs up and travels with you on that will be, it will be a unique experience, because you bring that other aspect.
Well, it's really, again, like we've chatted about, it's hopefully showing people a different way of seeing, different way of seeing the world.
Yeah.
So that's what we can hope. A lot of workshops as well, not just with some of the artists, but with me, travel writing, our photo walks with phones, and since you guys won't be at hand, I'll have to do those myself, but hopefully I'll do a half decent job.
We could come
and sketching. Help. Did I see?
Yes, because that's important. Now, I've been drawing since a young age, but I'm not an artist. I have to stress that. Drawing is a tool for me. It's such a great way of trying to get your head around certain things that with words just don't do it, okay? And I want to show people how to use that in their travel journals.
Gee.
Okay, so we'll talk a lot about very different drawing.
I think we'd better go.
We're going to workshop that now. Fantastic. So
thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, okay. Let's hope it's a success, because we want to go everywhere with that.
We do. It's just a start.
We really do. Yeah. It's just the start. Okay, guys, look, have a great Christmas.
Yes, and you.
Wish you a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And a Happy New Year.
Yeah. Thanks, so. It's such fun working with you. Yeah, festive season.
It is. It's fun. We're one big happy family.
We are.
Most of the time.
Indeed.
Okay, guys. Well, take care, and we'll talk again soon.